Hey, what's going on, guys? Mackenzie Long here, and I got a copy of the FFL Cease and Desist letter, and I want to talk a little bit about that, some of the things that I found inside of it, and maybe some notes that you can take if you're in the industry that'll be really important to you as well. And if you don't know me, my name is Mackenzie Long. I've been in this industry for a while, and I've been teaching people how money works. It's something that's not taught in schools, which means most people are financially illiterate, meaning they make lots of mistakes when it comes to money, and very often they're being taken advantage of. The lack of financial literacy is a huge problem in our country, and it's a huge passion that we have for expanding our agency. I've recruited hundreds of agents and now thousands of clients at this point. And so I might have some insight to some of the things that are happening with Family First Life and this whole cease and desist letter that I kind of want to talk about. And obviously, I think there should be benefit for you, especially if you're in the industry, on some things that you can and you can't do according to the Federal Trade Commissions. Now, first and foremost, if you're part of Family First Life or if you're looking up Family First Life, I don't necessarily have an opinion on a lot of those things. I've never been a part of the company. I don't really know anybody who is, other than all of the messages that I get on Facebook of them trying to recruit me. So I've never really done a lot. I've looked into their comp. I've looked into a lot of the stuff that they have, but I've never worked with them. I've never participated with them. I've never promoted them or done anything like that. So I'm going to try as much as I can to keep my opinions of the company out of it and just kind of go over what happened with the letter and basically some things that you can use or some important things that you need to know, especially about social media and promoting some of these things. Maybe if you came from FFL, smash the like button. Either way, make sure you hit the like button, and we'll be getting into this. So first and foremost, I don't think FFL is a scam. This letter has nothing to do with them taking advantage of people necessarily. It's not that they're screwing over their clients. It's none of that stuff. Basically what happened in this letter, if they were a scam, they wouldn't care about a little letter from the FTC because they wouldn't have anything to go against their licenses or anything like that. So obviously they're a legitimate company. How they do things, I'm going to keep my opinion of stuff out of that, because obviously you have to be a licensed agent to be able to even sell a policy. You've got to go through the background checks with the FBI. You've got to be able to pass your local exam to be able to get into the industry. You've got to make sure you keep your continuing education up. You've got to keep your errors and omissions good. So there's a lot of things that you have to do before you can even come into the industry to sell a policy legitimately. But with that being said, I think it's important to understand some of these things, because if you're going to build a tremendous business in the financial services and the insurance world, why would you do all of that? If you're making what some of these people are claiming to make, why would you risk all of that to be able to make a post to try and recruit somebody? So that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. With that being said, it is a tremendous industry. There's lots of money to be made. So that's not necessarily a dispute. It's more so how they're doing it. But if they are making this kind of income, I think it's really important. You don't want to lose your entire business, your entire book of business, all your passive income, all your overrides. You don't want to lose everything because of a stupid tweet, right? Like our president that we just had lost everything over some stupid tweets. You don't want to do that, okay? So let's make sure you're compliant and kind of go over some of the things that they're having issues with. So let me read this letter to you, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so you can kind of see this part of it. And it says, "This is to advise you that the FTC staff has reviewed social media posts made by Family First Life's business opportunity participants or representatives in December 2021. We have determined that Family First Life is unlawfully misrepresenting the consumers who become Family First Life business opportunity participants are likely to earn substantial income. Some examples of earning claims made by your business opportunity participants or representatives include." So what they're not saying here is that they're doing anything wrong necessarily for the consumer, particularly as far as the policies that they've done or that kind of stuff. But what they are saying here is the claims that they're making on social media are misrepresenting. But what they are saying here is that the claims that they're making on social media are not just representing how much money they made, but how much money that is possible to be made in the industry. So here's the crazy thing for me. Having been in the industry for a while, these people are probably not lying. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They might have actually been able to do that. It's not unreasonable to make really good money in the industry, and that doesn't seem to be FTC's real issue. Their issue seems to be the way that they're talking about it and the way they make it sound like it's almost a guarantee, or that if you just recruit onto the company that you can make that kind of money. And now I did a whole video on why you should not recruit to money. So you should definitely go check that out because I think that's really important. And what's funny is I didn't even have this on the list, but this is a huge important factor as well, especially in the financial services industry. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But the reason why it's so important here is because obviously the FTC doesn't like it. So if you'd like to keep your license, if you want to stay in the industry, you probably shouldn't do it as well. So to boil it down, what the FTC is saying is that just because you join the company, just because you come into the industry, doesn't mean you're going to make it. And I'll read a couple of these to you. Basically, I'll just kind of sum it down. They're saying that, hey, I made $40,000 this month, and I was previously working. One of them talks about the person previously working as a nurse, and they had done that for 7 years, and now they came over to Family First Life, and now they made $40,000 a month. And again, this is probably honest. Some of the videos that I've seen, it looked like a genuine conversation between two people. One of them was kind of interviewing the other, said, hey, you know, how much did you make last month? They're like, oh, just under $40,000. So that doesn't necessarily be the complaint. Here again, what the FTC is talking about is the way that they're promoting this is simply just that you come into the industry and that's the type of money you can expect to make, which is obviously false. And let's talk about some reasons why it's false, because I get this sometimes too from new recruits or people that are coming into the industry and they want to understand more about it because it's something that we're not really familiar with. So I don't have the exact numbers on these. These would be more of my estimates, or at least my experience, or the things that I've seen in the industry, what I've heard, been around for a while, is probably the ratio, if you're including all the companies combined, is probably about 90% of the people who get recruited never actually get licensed. Now, that can vary company to company. In our agency, those numbers are very, very different. But overall, about 90% of the people that come in never actually get licensed. So when you hear them make an income claim like that, obviously you couldn't make $40,000 that month or off of that policy if you were never licensed, right? Like that should be the first sign that it's not a scam, is obviously you have to have your license in place. You have to go through FBI background checks. You have to pass certifications with the state before you can even sell a policy. And so if you never get your license, guess what? You can also never make any money from a policy. So that would probably be the number one reason why most people fail coming into the industry, is they never actually get licensed. Number two challenge I see would be that people come into the industry, maybe they get licensed, but they're afraid to talk to people, which is crazy to me because they go through this whole process. They come in, they've got to do their studying for the state. They've got to pass the background check with the FBI and do their fingerprints. They've then got to do continuing education, get their errors and omissions insurance, make sure all that stuff is approved by the state, get appointed with a company that they can work with, who then also does their own background checks to make sure this person's legitimate, doesn't have any financial issues. So once they've done all of that, people will go through that entire vetting process, and then they don't actually want to get into the field, or they don't want to make contact with somebody. And so they can come in, be licensed, and then not do anything. And I've had plenty of these guys through the course of my career, right? Because you can't tell up front. You don't know who is actually going to be great at this thing and who's not. There are some indicators, but it's not always true. So part of that challenge is they simply don't want to make a phone call. They're afraid to talk to people. And a lot of people don't make money because of that. And the complaints you usually see from this is, hey, I went out and I got my license. I went to all the trainings. I went out to some big event, and I went out and I bought these courses and I was learning about this stuff, and I never made any money. And usually if you ask those people, hey, well, how many appointments did you get out on? Did you ever have a client? Like, are you saying that you had clients and the company never paid you? And they're like, no, I never did any of that stuff. And yet sometimes they're surprised that they didn't get paid, which it sounds kind of silly when I say it, and it only seems to happen in our industry because I don't see, or maybe I'm just not around it enough, I don't see that really being talked about in real estate or other businesses. And so if you have a real estate license, you can spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, go get your real estate license, and never tell anybody you're a real estate agent. You can go to the trainings once or twice a week, never sell a home, and it never really seems to be the broker's fault or the company's fault. It's not Century 25's fault. I know it's not a company, but it's not Century 25's fault that you didn't go get your license and then start talking to people and sell a home, it's the agent's fault. But for some reason, when we come into the financial services or the insurance world, it's the company's fault, and somehow they're a scam because you didn't do anything to actually earn the income, and so they didn't pay you. Because in our industry, or in business and self-employment in general, if you do no work, actual work of bringing clients, then you make no money, right? What you're paid is not based off of your time and how many trainings you go to, it's based off of your value. And that's why people can do it part-time and make really good money. So that's why people can work in the industry part-time and make really good money, even sometimes compared to the full-time people, because they know how to bring more value in what they do than somebody who's full-time and doesn't want to call anybody. And that can be really difficult for people to understand, especially because most of us come, like myself, from being an employee, and we're used to getting paid for just showing up and doing whatever it is that we're told to do while we're there, whereas entrepreneurship is very different. And that might be part of the area where the industry needs some help, in that I don't know if they discern that enough, if they're clear enough in their recruiting presentations going, hey, look, you are self-employed here, you're not an employee. And I think there needs to be a very clear line in that when you're recruiting people to the industry, that they understand that they're building a business, that they're starting their self-employment, not that they're being recruited to something where they're going to get an hourly or salary pay. And sometimes it's not even that black and white or that convoluted. Sometimes they just don't understand. They don't ask enough questions. So I think you need to be very clear in your recruiting process of what they're actually doing and what to expect. And number three, the third challenge why I see people in the industry wouldn't make money is they simply don't stick around long enough to see the results. And if you've ever been in any kind of business, if you've ever been self-employed, if you've ever done anything in sales, you would understand this concept that you might go talk to 100 people, but out of that 100 people, not everybody's going to be ready right now for what you're doing. They've got life going on. They're in the middle of divorces. They're in the middle of getting married. They're in the middle of having a baby or buying a house. And so timing's not good. So for the vast majority of those people, it might be 2, 3, 4, 6 months down the road. And so they're starting to build this pipeline, but they don't stick around long enough to actually see the fruits of their labors. Which again, coming from being an employee, you're used to working a couple hours, getting paid for the couple hours, working a couple hours, getting paid for a couple hours, where when you start into business and self-employed, there's a process that happens from when you actually talk to somebody to when they become a client. And I think a lot of people miss out on that last part of it. It's almost like they go out and plant a bunch of seeds and they don't see immediate results in the first couple weeks. And that's not true for everybody. A lot of people see immediate results, but other people are a little bit slower. It's funny because it's usually the people who are slower getting started who are more worried about getting results faster than the people who start fast and get results immediately. But they're basically planting seeds and then not waiting for them to actually become trees. And I would say that's probably the third reason why people might not make money or as much money as they expect in the industry, is because they quit before they have the chance for those actions to actually compound. And that's not just FFL, that's business in general. So basically what all of this boils down to for FFL is that they need to stop promoting these things online, because it's not realistic necessarily for everybody. It doesn't mean everybody couldn't do it or doesn't have the capability of doing it, but it's not the same results for everybody. They consider that to be recruiting or talking to people in a deceptive manner, which I kind of agree with. I don't think it's a good way to recruit anyway. Obviously, you want to talk about income at some point. They need to know how they make money and the opportunity for money, but you don't want to oversell it. And I don't think you need to oversell it. And that kind of seems like what's happening here. But overall, my whole opinion on this is kind of funny because I have people from all different walks of life as clients and friends. And what's interesting to me is you can be in almost any other industry, influencers, house flippers, and you can basically say and do whatever the heck you want to do. You can make any income claims. You can flip a car and say, hey, I made $40,000 on flipping this car today. You should come with me and watch my YouTube channel and I'll show you how to flip cars. And all of that is perfectly okay. But as soon as you have a license and you're in the financial services industry, you can even be honest in that, and that could be your results. But if you say it, now it's kind of in this weird area of you're being deceptive to people because not everybody's going to have the same results. Although in every other industry in the world, that's true as well, but nobody really seems to care about that. So I do think it's a good thing though, because obviously it means the industry is regulated. I do think it's important to be honest and have transparency. I do think it's obviously important to be honest and be transparent about these things. I just find it a little bit comical that it's really only in this industry that if you say anything, you're in big trouble. And I wish I could talk about some of that stuff a little bit more. Probably not, because I wouldn't want to recruit that way anyway. But I think it's kind of funny that we can't and most other industries can. But regardless, that doesn't matter, because according to the law, you're not supposed to be doing that. So if you are in financial services, if you are in insurance or you're investment advisor or any of those things, you obviously can't or don't want to be doing those things, because the FTC will see that and obviously not like it, and you'll get a cease and desist letter just like FFL. So part of me wishes that it was kind of an equal playing field on all industries, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. And I also don't think that it would be possible to regulate all of that anyway. So it is what it is. You just got to understand that when you're coming into this industry, you've got to find other ways to recruit than just trying to promote the money. And again, if you haven't watched my video on that, I highly recommend it. But until then, if you sell courses or you promote cryptocurrency or NFTs or any of that other stuff, basically feel free to make whatever claims you want. But as soon as you come into the financial industry, you got to stop all that. But honestly, I think it's a good thing. I think it's important for the industry to have. I think that they have the consumers' best interest at heart. I wish that they would do a little bit more of that stuff maybe, but it is what it is. So even if you are legit, even if you're doing all the right things, even if what you're saying is honest, you just don't want to be putting that stuff out into the social media space. Or if you do, make sure that it's in the context that those results are not for everybody. Not everybody's going to have that exact same results. Even if you get licensed and you don't call anybody, guess what? You're not going to have that happen. So just make sure you're specific on that. And don't forget to smash the like button and also hit the subscribe as well. And I'll keep you up to date with a lot of things that's going on in our life and our process of building our agency, things that are going on in the industry, in business, in life, in finances, in fitness, and in health, and also in fun too. And I appreciate and love you guys, and I will see you later.